Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played 11 seasons for the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. And this is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. Come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey. Usually we have a guest, but we had some logistical problems today, so we won't have a guest, Tom. So
in other words, nobody wanted to come on with us. Is that what it was?
Oh, no. Actually, we had someone come on, but they have some construction going on in their house, and it turned out they were coming earlier, and with all the hammering going on, he didn't think it'd be.
That would have been interesting. We could have gone over like a construction show a little bit too, like putting the beams.
Yeah, we've done cooking. Why can't we just do construction? My wife can do construction too, so we can.
Yes, I know. Yeah,
we can bring her in as well.
You know what? We have her on the show. Maybe I'll just do a show with her alone. We'll talk about you behind your back and all the stuff that she does.
Yeah. She's got stories.
Oh, nice.
So we go way back. So yeah, I mean, I've known her since she was 15. So
is that right? Wow.
Well, no, actually, she was 16. I was 15 when we met.
Nice. Nice.
It's not like we were high school sweethearts, but I knew her. I mean,
you had told me the story.
I've sat in front of her in typing class. So yeah, she just walked by and doesn't like me.
What are you talking about?
Did you know what we never discussed? She saw my seared tuna, right?
Did you see a seared tuna?
I did not.
Oh, she didn't see the seared tuna.
Ooh,
but it sounds delicious, he said. He had it with asparagus, but he didn't grill the asparagus.
I know. So let me go over this real quick, the cooking segment of our show.
Yeah.
So when you do the asparagus, it's grilled pretty good. So like it's charred?
No, I wouldn't say it's charred, but
I put it in foil.
She puts it in foil.
With a little bit of oil.
With a little bit of oil.
Maybe
a little bit of onion.
Garlic.
So does it still have that texture? Like I have a hard time with the texture thing. Like it gets kind of stringy or whatever.
Yeah.
Is yours like that?
Well, you want young asparagus so it's not stringy.
You want young asparagus so it's not stringy.
Good. All right. I'm getting the wrong asparagus.
So what she's taught me too, like she always gives me marching orders when I go to get the vegetables about whether I got to plunk it or not too firm, not too soft.
Happy. I say look for happy.
Yeah, that's what she always tells me. Look to make sure the vegetables are happy.
Make sure that cauliflower,
Snow white cauliflower. I got to get. Yeah, so
I like that. So we got to get happy vegetables. I like that.
Well, the other thing that's so interesting about when you go to the store for my wife, she has you get things you have never heard of. So you have to wander around aimlessly in the grocery store. Now, I've been at this a while now, so at least I now know where weird things are. But weird oil.
Do you think she does that though? Do you think she does that just to keep you out of her hair, like just keep you out of the house longer?
I don't know, but I always groan when I get a list from her, and it has special kinds of flour because she doesn't use regular flour anymore. It's I forget what all it is, but so it's just almond flour. She just told me, and things of that nature. So
I use the almond flour as well. There you go.
Yeah. He uses it as well. So, all right. Well, we moved off to cooking. We're not going to do construction today. So you guys what I want to talk about last night was, Tom, your Rangers had a victory over the Buffalo Sabres, but does that even count? Like the Sabres have lost 9 out of 11 now.
I know.
And I mean, it's just so. I really feel bad for the Sabres fans. I really do because, a lot of people don't pay any attention to this, but, when there is a national telecast, like in the Stanley Cup final, obviously the two teams that are involved, their fan bases are engaged. So they're the cities that carry the ratings. But who's always number 3 in terms of the ratings? It's always Buffalo. Yeah. Buffalo cares about the league even beyond their team, and they're fantastic sports town. They're great hockey fans in Buffalo, and I know Bob Duff always says that Buffalo fans are honorary Canadians just because there's such diehard hockey fans, but. I don't know what's going on there. Like I think if I had to cast blame, I think I'd point it squarely at Terry Pegula.
Well, with all the changes they made, coaches and general managers and players and everything, yeah, that's the one constant, right? I mean,
I don't think they've made the playoffs since he became owner.
yeah, I agree.
I
And not just not made the playoffs, but there's no progression upward, right? It's like not like they're saying, okay, we're going to regroup here, we're going to build this new franchise, we're going to keep moving up. It's just, it's hard to. I'd like to say it's one step forward and two step back, but they're never taking a step forward. Even I don't think that's the problem.
Well, they sort of do like 3/4 a step anyway. I mean, like Jack Eichel when they got him, and I know you're down on him a little bit, but they. It came out this week that he's been hurt, even though Kruger said before that he wasn't hurt. But it's such a mess there. And, like even Dahlin, when he was coming up, they were comparing him to Nick Lidstrom.
Yeah.
Now, he's a good young player still, but he's not dominating the way that people said he was going to. So
yeah, and I actually thought his rookie year he showed some of that. Right, he was a physical player, like he was taking control of things. But yeah, that just doesn't happen. Yeah.
So has he been discouraged, by all this that's going on that he doesn't, he can't see the light at the end of the tunnel?
I don't as a player. I'm trying to think back when I played, especially when I was young. I just wanted to get better all the time. Like my dream had come true. I'd made it to the National Hockey League, and now you're thinking, okay, now I'm going to take the next step. Herb Brooks came in and really liked me as a player, gave me opportunities and everything, a certain role to play. And I just felt like as a player, and most of the guys I played with were like this too, that it wasn't always the coach that forced the player to get better. It was the player himself that wanted to get better. And I'm not saying that's not happening in Buffalo. Maybe there's something else we don't know about, but it's just when I see a Ryan O'Reilly and the comments he made when he was in Buffalo, that were somewhat negative that, listen, we got to change the culture here. And then he goes off to St. Louis and, wins the Conn Smythe, and it's this character guy. I mean, that kind of tells me that there's something in the water there at Buffalo, in the Buffalo locker room that's missing.
Boy, it is such a mess. And, one thing it should be clear, because there's always a lot of discussion about whether Eichel will be traded. He's never asked for a trade.
No.
Like he hasn't now. He hasn't said anything discouraging. I just think those who know Eichel know how competitive he is. And, like it just feels like it could blow up. He wants to really, I mean, I've known him since he was, like 17. And the one constant with him is how much he wants to win. Like he can't stand it when his team is.
So let's say that Pegula is the general manager there now, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, we've got to redo this. We got to start all over again. So Eichel obviously your biggest trading chip, right? Did you get a bunch of prospects and draft picks and everything for? But still, then but is that solving the problem? Like, what is the problem there? Why can't they win? Like Kruger, I was kind of questioning the coaching decision to hire Kruger, but he seemed like when he first got there, was a really good coach. He was communicating well with the players and really knew what he was doing.
Yeah, I think he is a good coach. I thought Edmonton should have never fired him. I thought he's a modern coach. He talks to the players. They seem to respect him. And the fact that he also got hired in the soccer world as well. I mean, that's a much bigger sport than our little sport. Totally. And they're dealing with a lot more money. And he got a pretty prestigious job over in England. So he obviously has some attributes that are desirable if you're an owner. But I'll go right back where I started this. Pegula has not made the right decisions in terms of who is coming and going. Like I thought they really. I'm nothing against Kevin Adams. I really liked him as a player, and he might end up being a great general manager. Like I liked his first trade when he got Eric Stahl. I liked it a lot. But this situation, in my opinion, cried out for a guy that had been around the block a few times and, who has a proven track record of getting teams squared away. Now, was that, Dean Lombardi or Ray Shero but it felt to me that instead of taking a new guy, because they had gone that route with Jason Botterill, who, was new in terms of being in charge of a team. He had been around a long time and and had quite a quality reputation as assistant general manager. But, for whatever reason, that didn't work with Jason Botterill. And, it seemed to me that, you want to do something different. And I would have gone with a proven guy. Or why didn't you call Brian Burke?
Yeah.
Well,
and you wonder, and again, I'm purely speculating when I say this. Mr. Pegula was a huge Buffalo Sabres fan when he was younger, and that's why he bought the team. So is he wanting to be involved? Like, the good owners are the ones that give all the support that's needed, right? All the finances, everything, all the personnel is needed for the general manager and the president of the team to make the right decisions for the team. But generally, they stay out of the decision-making process. The owners do. They stay out of it. They may be informed of what's going on, but is it a case where, and you mentioned before, Mrs. Pegula is really involved as well, right?
Yeah, well, she's the president, yeah.
Right. So is that then that they want to be so involved in the decision-making process and there's no GM that wants to work that way?
Well, I might quibble with you a little bit about, I don't think all great owners stay out of.
You're correct. Not all.
I think that it really what you want is an owner that knows that most of the time he needs to stay out of it, but sometimes he needs to get his hands into it. And
like Mr. Ilitch, for example, he was famous for being a guy that gave him all the resources needed, but he really let Kenny Holland make the decision.
He did. Right. However, he had some rules that Kenny sort of knew about. He liked big splashes, and you tend as a manager to sort of, kind of know your ownership. You got to manage your owner.
Yes, absolutely.
And Ken Holland knew that, Mike Ilitch, if he was going to hire a coach, he wanted somebody named Bowman or Keenan or a big Bob Johnson, a big name. He didn't want Joe Smith, who had earned his stripes in the East Coast Hockey League and then the American League. He told me a great story one time about Mike Ilitch coming into his office one time, and it was right after the expansion draft, and they had lost Doug Brown to the Nashville Predators. And Mike came in and talked about the hardship on the Brown family, and they were going to have to uproot and all this kind of stuff. And Kenny told me that at one point he stopped. He goes, "Mr. are you trying to tell me that you didn't want to lose Doug Brown and that you want to get him back? Because if that's what you're saying, as soon as you walk out that door, I'll be on that phone and I'll be trying to get that done." Right. And, this point of that story was, how differential he was to Holland. Like, he didn't want to, usurp his power, but how much he cared about his guys, but also how much Ken Holland, loved how he was treated by Ilitch and would have, walked through a brick wall to do what he wanted. So, I think that's the kind of ownership you want. A guy who never has gotten any credit for being a good owner, but I think he really is Mario Lemieux. Mario Lemieux doesn't say much, but I guarantee you, if things went south, Mario would have a lot to say.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Mario, he knows the game. He knows the sport. He's shrewd. He commands such respect. Yeah. And if he sensed that was going south, like if, and I'm not sure Crosby would do this, but if Crosby called him and said, something's going on in our room, and if you were here, you wouldn't like it. Mario would want to get to the bottom of it. I think Mario's, what you want in an owner.
It's funny as you're talking to, I'm thinking back in LA when Bruce McNall took over the team and was the owner. And he, first of all, fantastic guy. So anybody that doesn't remember, Bruce McNall bought the Los Angeles Kings. He then traded for Wayne Gretzky and built it up where, hockey in Southern California was not that big a thing before, and he really made it into a big thing. Now, he also had to go to jail because of some of the stuff. I think it was falsifying loan documents and all that kinds of stuff. He went to jail. Now, and I kept in touch with Mr. McNall too, and even after he got out of prison, then he, to me, listen, what he did was wrong, but he made no excuses. He didn't blame anybody else. He said, "Tom, I did it. I got caught up in a whole situation. There's nobody to blame but myself." So you have to kind of admire that. But when he was an owner, talk about being involved. Like, he was in the locker room after all the games. Like, he would come to me. We'd be on the road. He'd hand me like $1,000 and say, "Tom, take the guys all out for beers." Like he was always involved. He would have us, private jets bringing us back from games, so we'd be more rested and everything like that. So he was, but I don't think he was involved in terms of making trades and everything. He just wanted to be around the guys and everything like that.
Yeah.
So he was a totally different kind of owner. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he was the kind of guy that would be in the background saying, let's go big or go home.
Yeah.
He really, kind of pushed. I mean, he and John Candy and Gretzky bought the Toronto Argonauts.
That's right. That's right.
They're all they bought Gretzky. He bought the famous Hornets Wagner card.
Yeah.
I think they bought it for $1 million. Everybody thought they were crazy, and I think that card is well over $4 million now.
And Bruce McNall was the one that did the Wayne Gretzky trade. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally. No. I like Bruce too, and what he did was wrong. I mean, basically what he did was he used coins of he was how he made his fortune. He started out in the coin business,
right?
Ancient, not 1909 pennies, but Roman, Greek antiquity style era coins and that sort of thing. And as I recall, if I have the story right, I think he used some of those coins as collateral that he didn't really own or something.
Yes.
Something similar to that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a lot of people don't realize that when you fill out those loan applications, you actually are supposed to be truthful.
Yes.
He can't say,
he was such a good guy too, man. Like he just loved the game, loved the players. Yeah.
He was so, I mean, people would tell me that on his private jet that he would act like a flight attendant. Like he would get up and serve everybody.
Yep.
And, he was like that. I always enjoyed talking to him. He was always fun.
It was
a very, very fun interview. So how are we going to fix that? I cringe when I hear you say things like, okay, you move out Eichel for a bunch of prospects. I'm not doing that. If I'm moving Eichel, I'm getting back a player.
Okay, so all right. So then something has to change then. Is it the guys in the locker room? Is there some players in the locker room that are the problem? I mean, again, by Ryan O'Reilly, who's that character player, that leader, before he left Buffalo, he had some pretty harsh things to say about what was going on in that organization, right? And that's part of the reason they moved him out of there. But he appears to be right. I mean, and he's this character guy now that's winning in St. Louis. So what?
I mean, maybe you call Jim Rutherford. You call Jim Rutherford and you beg him.
Okay, Jim Rutherford is going to say to the Paculas, though, okay, listen, I'll come and work for you, but I'm making the decisions. I mean, he may say it in a different way, maybe a more diplomatic way, but it can't be that he's answering. I mean, maybe he has to keep the Paculas informed of what's going on.
Right.
But it's a quality GM like that is right.
Well, for sure. But we always say you fire the coach because that's the easiest thing to do. And you never could fire the owner, so you're going to have to live with whatever that is. But I think Pagula is going to have to recognize, look, it hasn't, whatever I'm doing, it hasn't worked.
Right.
And
I'm trying to think, there's a case back in history where something was going on and an owner was too involved and some GM came to the I think it was the Washington Capitals, it might've been, where George McPhee, this is a story I'd heard anyways. I think it was George McPhee said to Ted Leonsis, I believe this is true. You're a bad owner. Like you're a great guy, but you're way too involved in the team. There's some story like that. And it was really a good conversation. Or maybe it was even, I can't remember. It was when Brian McClellan took over, and part of his conversation was with the owner that, listen, you need to step aside and let me run the team. I believe it was more Brian McClellan that did that when he took over. At least this is what I was told anyways, in Washington, that, that somebody has to say to the ownership that has some credibility, listen, you are not being a good owner right now because you're overdoing it, really. You need to step aside. So,
well, we've got some other teams. It isn't just Buffalo's in that situation. The Calgary Flames, what if they don't make the playoffs? What are we doing?
Well, I hate to say this, and it's awful because I don't know Jeff Ward, the coach there. It should be probably. I've heard great things about it, so I hate to say this, but I never understood at all why, with other coaches out there like that, like a Gerard Gallant again, that's available, and maybe they talked to him, he didn't want the job, but I just feel like you don't have that commanding presence. Like right now, I watch Monahan and Goudreau, and they're just not playing the hockey that they should be playing. And now, again, that's not all coaches, but it's like a John Tortorella gets the most out of his players, although his general manager had to come to his support last night as well. But it just doesn't seem like Ward gets much out of his players. And again, that's maybe totally unfair to him. But
yeah, although Goudreau's been better this year. I just predicted the U.S. Olympic team, and I had Goudreau on that team for 2022. I probably would not have had him on that team last year based on how he was playing.
So you think he's playing better?
Yeah, he is. I mean, and his production is up, as well. But I don't think that solves the problem there. I mean, I think if I'm him, I want out of there. I don't know how he feels about it, but I think it's time for him to. He needs to change the venue.
Yeah,
he needs to come back on the East Coast. I would guess. But Columbus is an interesting team. Like both you and I like that team. You and I have great respect for Tortorella. He gets a lot out of his players. But what if they don't make the playoffs?
I know. And again, Kirkland, the general manager, was questioned last night in a press conference, asked about the coaching staff and whether they were in trouble or not. And he was very adamant that no, he had faith that these guys had done it before. They can get him out of this rut because they had done it before, and they were fine there. So that's kind of the kiss of death, though, right? When the general manager has to.
Well, they say that, but the interesting thing, a lot of one of the reasons why that's a fair question to ask is Tortorella's contract expires now. Yeah. We never think about coaches becoming free agents, but we should. I mean, look at Mike Babcock. He changed the salary structure in the NHL for coaches when he was a free agent.
Yep.
And we certainly, I could see Tortorella landing elsewhere as well. And the pandemic has played a role in all this too. There's no money coming in. Or none to speak of in terms of revenue. So no one's in a hurry to extend anybody or to do anything. They want to see how quickly we're getting out of this. So I don't blame the Blue Jackets for not re-signing him. I'm sure they said to him, let's talk about this when we know better when the fans are going to come back and so forth.
Yeah, but I hear you. But I guess to myself, I think, like Tortorella's won a cup. He's really changed that He changed the organization here at the Rangers. He's changed Columbus's organization, the culture of the team there. To have a coach of that caliber, not going forward with a new contract, that's kind of odd, right? I mean, you're obviously, if you just like right now, what's happening, if they have a tough patch, the question now arises: okay, is this coach all right? Is he getting fired? Right? Why aren't you re-signing him if he's your coach of the future? Right? So.
Well, yeah, and I think Seth Jones likes him, and Seth Jones will be a UFA coming up as well.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, one thing they don't really have, and maybe this is unfair. Maybe it's Seth Jones, but I don't know who the flag carrier is on the Blue Jackets.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, Foligno's their leader, right? But he's not.
Yeah, but then you know what I mean. Like, do they look?
He's not a huge player.
Yeah, do they look to Foligno when they need somebody to rise up? And I
they do with the physical, gritty play, but for somebody to go out and score a big goal, that's really not him, right?
Yeah. Maybe like I said, maybe that's unfair because Seth Jones is is an exceptional player.
Right.
I'm losing my voice here.
Yeah, you are. Get some ginger in you.
Yeah, and turmeric. Yeah.
Yes.
Turmeric. Yeah.
All right. So, okay, here's the teams that we need to restructure, right? In my mind. So San Jose, something's got to happen there. Like Erik Karlsson just the other night scored his first goal of the year. That can't be. That doesn't work.
Well, I mean, is it time for Doug Wilson to go? Is that what you're saying?
Well, listen, again, a former player, so I'm very respectful of all these guys, but former players, so I'm obviously going to back. But to be honest with you, yes, I know some good things have happened in San Jose, but I don't know if he's never won a Stanley Cup. And with some of the things that have gone on there, I mean, I kind of Joe Thornton was the captain, then they took the captain. I mean, that doesn't happen often where a player Joe Thornton's status was the captain and now isn't the captain anymore. And then the guy they name as captain, and let it go on as a free agency in Pavelski. So I kind of wonder, is that, it just they haven't gotten where they totally need to get to. They've had some good teams, but it may be time for him to go. Okay. So what do you think? Is that what you're thinking with San Jose?
Yes. I think it starts there, and I think they got to really redo it. And they're an organization. I think it wouldn't be out of that wouldn't be unthinkable that they strip it down to the chassis like you did with.
Okay, Calgary Flames. So what's going to happen there? Trade Goudreau, fire the coach.
I would start with the trade Goudreau and see what you get back. I mean, there's some interesting players on that team. Tree Living has a good reputation.
Right.
It's not like he's been there 100 years. And they've been competitive before, so it's not like they've always been bad. I think that's where I would start. I don't see that they need a complete redo.
Right. And they keep that coach. You think you're all right with that coach?
I'm okay if you want to move him out and start over again, depending on what kind of team you got going. And when you fire the coach, if you trade Goudreau, I think that sends a message that we're going to do things differently.
Right, and you keep Monahan. Then you think he's
well. It depends on what I could get for him.
Right.
So.
All right, Nashville Predators. I hate going over this one because of our good friend David Poyle.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I don't like where that team's at all. And I think they know it. And I think they're thinking about blowing it up, with the exception of, you can't totally blow it up because you got Yossi, you got Ryan Ellis.
You got those big contrasts with Johansson and Duchesne.
Yeah, I think you do sort of a rebuild the way that LA is trying to do it now, where you try to build around Doughty and Kopitar and some of the other guys. And I think, but you really gotta, you gotta do better in getting some, young forwards. They've always done a really good job of developing defensemen, drafting them, but they haven't done as well, bringing in young forwards.
So the touching question then is, does David Poyle move up to president, let's say?
Yeah. Director of hockey operations, and get a new, that's probably what I would suggest to him. I mean, I have nothing but respect.
Yep.
But it's probably time for someone with a different ideas. And, if you wanted more, like you could bring in Ray Shero, who knows the Predators and, was mentored by David, but he's not completely like David. So, like those two would be able to work together. But I think Ray Shero would have some new ideas.
Right.
But they got to do something there.
They wouldn't bring Paul Fenton back, do you think, would they?
No. No, Paul was not, Paul did just a tremendous job of stock. He was a good analyst, but, he never endeared himself to all the people in,
I played with Paul, and I love the guy. Right? Like he's one of the most stubborn. I mean, this is a total compliment. One of the most stubborn men I've ever. He's got his way. He's going to do things, and I admire that. He's going to do it his way, and that's it. But the problem is when you get, like you mentioned earlier, you have to manage the people above you as well when you're a general manager. That's where.
He did. He's tended to alienate. I will say this though. I was friends with Jim Johansson, and Jim Johansson thought the world of Paul Fenton. So. Yeah. That tells me, because Jimmy was the greatest guy in the world. So if he liked Paul, there was a lot there. And, I found him okay to deal with.
All right. And then the other team in Buffalo, we're going to go over that. We're going to say that, okay, a GM of Jim Rutherford's status has to go in there and tell the Pagulas, listen, let me run the team. I'll keep you informed of what's going on, but I need to be able to make decisions. That's our stance.
Yeah. And you get Jack Eichel and Reinhardt and, and you tell those guys, look, there's a new sheriff in town. Be patient. I'm going to change a bunch of guys. My reputation, but I'm not trading you. So,
see, I like that. You're right, because you should. If you're going to trade Eichel, you should get a huge haul for him. But that haul really isn't going. Taylor Hall. I don't mean that. You should get a lot back for him. But again, the stuff you're going to get back for him isn't going to pay dividends for 3, 4, 5 years, right? So,
well, unless you do, like if you were going to trade him to the Rangers for Zibanejad and something else, or Detroit for Larkin and something else. You could make a 1950s, 60s style of hockey trade, but I wouldn't do that. Eichel was drafted by Buffalo with the idea he has that potential to be a dominant player. Like, I think he can be better than Dylan Larkin or Zabinowicz. So
he should be. He should be better than those guys. No question.
Yeah. So I would. I wouldn't do that. And Reinhardt's been, he started out slow, but he's been a contributor. They got some talented players. They got Darlene. And the one thing I've always been bothered about is, I didn't like when they traded Riley, and I thought that was a bad move.
Yeah,
I said it before it happened. I know why it happened, but
okay. But let me ask you that: why did it happen? Because he made those comments.
Yeah, he made those comments. Yeah.
But were the comments that bad?
I didn't think so. I mean, I think he was being honest, and but I wouldn't have traded him. And the other thing I'd say is the same thing about Ristolainen.
Yeah,
Ristolainen.
Yeah,
Rio.
Yeah.
Oh no!
We'll change his name. That's fine.
No, yeah, that's right. I just keep every time I try to say his name, I think of the guy that played for the Oilers that would come in every year on a loan from from your
Rare Ristolainen that we had here too. Rare Ristolainen did that, didn't he?
Yeah, that's the guy. That's what I
always hear. Rangers.
Yeah, that's what I always try. But anyway, they always talk about they want to trade him.
Yeah.
And the minute you do, you're trying to replace him.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do that either. And Darlene will develop. And they've just got to do. I like Cousins. I think he's got a future. Right. I think there's some pieces there you got to work with. Now, here's the other thing too, and I didn't bring this up earlier, and I wanted to. It's not like Pegula can't be a good owner.
Yes.
Like we all love what the Buffalo Bills are doing.
Right.
He owns that team.
Yeah, totally.
They just got Josh Allen, and the whole world changed for him. Well, maybe they'll get somebody here. And
it's going to take a strong person with a lot of credibility, like a Jim Rutherford, to walk into Mr. Pegula's office and say, "Listen, you're a fantastic owner, but this is the way it has to work if you want to be successful." Yeah, I agree. All right, so then in Buffalo, the problem's at the top. In Nashville, the problem's on the ice.
Yes.
Calgary, the problem's behind the bench.
You think so? Yeah.
And in San Jose, the problem's on the ice.
Well, San Jose seems to be everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yes.
Yeah. So, I just think they've kind of let that team go. So.
Definitely. All right, so we got the whole league all figured out then right now.
Well, we do. It's a good time, I think, to say goodbye. Now that we've solved the problems of the teams that are in need of repair.
Sure.
Tom, the repairman, Laidlaw.
Right. Maybe they'll be calling. Maybe they'll call us up and say, "Listen, we saw your show. Can we just give you more detail?"
Yeah, we'll bring you in. You guys can do it. You can be the face of the team, and I'll just work in the background with you.
I like it.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. You can read me on hockeybuzz.com. I also do a podcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays with Bob Duff, hockeydebates.com, 4 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Tom?
And you can get the radio version of our show on radio.co 365 Sports. Again, that's radio.co 365 Sports. We'll see you guys on Monday.